Hello everyone, Zane here and welcome to another Final Fantasy XIV video. Today I'm going to show you guys what to sell to make guild with the ishgard restoration. Now as a disclaimer, make sure you guys do your research by checking your market board to see which of these items sells the most. This way you guys don't waste your resources on something that just doesn't want to sell. Also, if you guys want early access to my guild making videos a day early, as well as get a week or two in advance my list of items to sell, consider becoming a Patreon supporter or a YouTube member. The link to my Patreon will be in the description down below, and hit that join button to become a YouTube member. You also will get your name at the end of my videos as a thank you and a shout out, as well as get emotes and a badge next to your name to use on my live streams. Other than that, just like, comment, and share my videos for free to help me out. So another disclaimer, you have to have finished the main story quest of Heaven's Ward 3.3, the Litany of Peace, to unlock the ishgard restoration. Now the best way to do this and the most efficient is to be a level 90 crafter, anyone will do, and having the indagator fully melded set. I'll make sure to link the meld video in the description down below. As for the main hand tool, the indagator or the relic tool will work just fine. You can use the Forensic Visionaries version if you want to make this a little bit easier on yourself. But having 587 CP and 3951 control is ideal. As for the craftsmanship, 4104 is a little bit high, so you can go lower than that. Now the food that I use for the crafting version is ginger biryani. Now with my stats, I don't really need the giraffe for extra CPs because I think I have around 11 CP left over without any pliants, which reduces your CP cost by half depending on the ability. So I don't really have to use giraffe at all. But if you guys want to use it for extra cushion just in case, feel free to do so. But high quality biryani and the giraffe will work just fine. If you're doing gathering, the Yakao Masaka is going to be what you're going to be using for food when you're going for the gatherers. Now as for gathering, you want a perception of 40-50. This is to get gatherer's boon to 100% when you're doing the gathering at 10+5s at the end of your route. So having the indagator set as well as the relic tool will help with the gathering section. So I actually had to remeld my offhand. I had to take off the, I think that's 7 perception and put a grade 9 in there to get the extra perception on that, as well as take off the materia for the necklace and put a grade 9. So 40-51 perception is enough, and around 39-85 gathering is also going to be enough. With the Musaka, which gives you 55 GP, you'll have exactly 950 GP that you need for the rotation on the +5 gathering nodes, which I will go over. So having this stats and this cure will help you immensely. And yes, I'll make sure to link the meld video for my gatherers as well. So if we come over here, this is where you guys will be passing in your expert recipe items. So you want to get the maximum collectability for this to get the maximum reward and the points to get your pteranodon mount, which is 500,000 points for each crafter and gatherer class. And that is something that I've been working on myself. And when you pass in these items here, you'll get a cupo stamp. And when you get 5 stamps, you get to, well, do a scratch ticket to get some rewards that can sell for a lot of kill if you're lucky. Which I'll go over that when I get 5 cupo stamps. So over here is where you're going to be going into the diadem for gatherers. Talk to the commander to the right, and when you come back with your resources, you're going to have them appraised over here. Look at the resource list to see which ones will give you the most points, which is of course the grade 4 artisanal ones, and these ones here are based on the weather that will change periodically. You need 5 items to pass in for 13 sky points, and of course 3 scrips per. So these are what you're going to be focusing on when you're going and gathering. So here we are in the diadem. You have about 3 hours roughly to get as much gathering as possible before you have to re-instance. So right about here is where you're going to start. You're going to start with the top route all the way up to the Windmire, and then you're also going to rotate between the bottom route up to the Windmire. So by the time you get here, you're going to come right back to the beginning where the +5 gathering attempt nodes will spawn, where you're going to use your 950 GP on one, pop a cordial, and try to get, I think, 550 for the other +5 gathering attempt. So we're going to use our Musaka and try to make sure that our GP is at least 950 before we begin. Now, as for the Aether Auger up here, it takes 40 gathering attempts to get 1 bar. So by the time you're done doing both sides, you should have at least 1.5 bar filled. So you're going to do that a couple of times until you're getting about the 4th bar, and then you're going to start blasting the enemies that you see around you, which is this guy back here, to get a good chunk of materials, and then you basically start all the way around again. All right, so now our GP is restored. Now you're going to want to use your GP at first to make sure that you're not at full. So I personally would just do Pioneer's Gift 1 and 2, and then quick gather, and then regenerate your GP, and making sure that you use your GP every time it caps. But if you're that close to getting the +5 node, then hold off on using any GP until then. So then you come to the lower path, and then you come here and do exactly the same thing. So around 720 GP, just start gathering normal and don't waste anything until you get to the +5s. So we're going to do this until we get back to the +5 gathering attempt. So we're just going to speed through this real quick. Alright, so we're now at the +5 gather node, which is back at the beginning. So with a full 950 GP, Pioneer's Gift 2, or the minor equivalent, Nafika's Tidings, or Nothal's Tidings, Blessed Harvest 2, or King's Yield 2, and then Bountiful Harvest 2, or the minor equivalent, and then Gather. So you'll get 8 for the first, and then 5 for everything else. Alright, you should get 2 aether bars when you come back to the first +5. And then you go to the opposite and grab this +5. Waiting for at least 550 GP before gathering this one, which is almost there. Alright, so we got 550 GP. If you want, you actually can go to the next one on the bottom path to regenerate as well, because this one will still be there. So with your 500 GP, you're just going to do Pioneer's Gift 1, 2, Naldal's Tidings or Nauthica's, and then do Bountiful Harvest 2, take off Quick Gathering. Do that twice. And then gather the rest. And I do that for 3 hours straight, believe it or not. Alright, so now we can go ahead and leave and pass this in. Whatever we got. So 624 points for the sky for botanist and 144 scrips. And that's what you guys do for gatherers. Now, for crafters. Let's pop the biryani. Now, for my macro, we have the base, which is 1 and 2. Then we have the alternative. The alternative only is used if primed, which extends any ability, such as Waste Not 2, by 2 turns, which ultimately means that you cannot use Prudent Touch because those two don't mix. So we ultimately would have to do the alt alternative, which is basic and then standard touch, if that does happen. So the macro for this, number 1 is Muscle Memory, Manipulation, Veneration, Final Appraisal, 2 Groundworks, Innovation, 4 Prep Touches, and then Innovation at the end. So Final Appraisal stops your progress from completing, leaving you with 1 point left. Since Prime did not land on Waste Not 2, we can go to macro number 2. Macro number 2 is Prudent Touch, 2 Train Finesses, Innovation, Train Finesse, Great Strides, Baragats, and Basic Synthesis. And now I'm left with 11 CP. I believe a pliant was there when I did this, so that's why I say to have the draft on hand, just in case. So you're going to be doing this 5 times to get at least 1 cupo ticket. So this is going to take about 27 to 28 per food buff. If you're really quick, you're paying attention, you hit the next macro, then you quickly hit the button to get to the next craft, and you save a couple of seconds each time. So like I said, you should get about 27 to 28 crafts per food buff. And if you are using the draft, you should have to use it at least twice per food buff as well. So your CP will actually determine how much you have left based on how many pliants that you get. So you might get 11, you might get 100, all depends on RNG. So we'll do this one more time, and then I'll make last 3 off camera, and then we'll pass these in. Also, no goods or excellence are required. Unfortunately, we do end up getting them, but it doesn't matter. I made sure that this was good proof. Alright, so yeah, I'm left with 2 CP left over, which means that I get no appliance. So the maximum is 671 CP is the maximum that you need. Okay, so I'm going to make 3 more, I believe. 2 more, and then we'll pass these in. So the reason why you want to do max collectability, because it'll give you the max points, and of course the max scrips, which is going to be always 80. As for the points, it's going to be 1194, which means that in order to get the 500,000 points, you're going to be making about 419 of these to make that 500, or 420, depending. Okay, so let's pass these in. I have 1 left over. Alright, to the right is where you could do your scratch tickets. Some of these items can sell for a lot of gil. So we have the left scratcher, which always will give you the ones in the middle, but the right ones will give you the chance of getting the lowest or the highest reward. Sometimes these will all be griffins, which is the lowest. Sometimes they'll all be the crowns, which is the highest. There's an achievement if you get, I think, 30 of the crowns altogether. So the top one can either be the coffers, minions, and I believe a couple of mounts. The only one that you cannot sell the contents is the hairstyle coffer, but everything else, open it up and sell the contents. Sometimes the coffer is cheaper than the contents itself. So I'm going to choose this one. I got the middle one, which is cracked clusters, and the other 2 were griffins, so I definitely chose the right one, and the guaranteed one is unfortunately the harp as well. So it's all RNG and it's all a gamble. So some of these items from the Cupo Fortune can sell a lot as well, depending on your server. But that's how you guys get the points and the scripts for the rewards. So over here is going to be the script exchange. The top one here will have the mounts, minions, hairstyles, and emotes. Also parasols as well. So you want to focus on the mount first. I would say get the gazelle and the ufiti, which is the gorilla mount, on the marker board first. The big shell and antelope horn can be gotten through the Moogle event if you want to save your scripts for those other mounts. Alright, so these ones will probably be the cheaper ones, and these will be the more expensive ones. The albino on my server, the ram, didn't sell as high as the other ones, so I focus on these here. I did try to experiment with the hairstyles, but I only sold 1, which was the controlled chaos. But try to experiment with the rest. But focus on getting the mount first. After that, focus on the dyes next, because these are where most of my gil came from: gunmetal black and pearl white for 500. The more cost efficient is ruby red, but they don't go for as much as the other dyes. If you have on sanctuary available, you can use that for the dyes and use this for the mounts. So coming to the summoner bell here, you can see that I made over 7 million gil from this. Now I was doing this alongside of other gil videos, so this wasn't consistent. I could have made over 10 million if I kept consistent with this. So this one, I started selling the gunmetal black and pearl white dye. So they kind of went up towards the 24th of February because more people were buying them. The hairstyle attire, you cannot sell the contents, only can sell the coffer, but some idiot would not stop fighting me over it, so I had to drop it down to 200,000, which I eventually sold. Here is the ufiti amount, which I sold for almost 600,000 gil. That's with tax. More dye. Here's the controlled chaos that I sold, and here is where I started selling the ruby red dye, which was under 10,000 gil. I can go back even further, but unfortunately the sales history only goes, I think, 7 days. Here I made 5.7 million, which I sold one of the gazelle mounts this morning at 10:48, or that was last night at 10:48 p.m. But this is over almost a million gil. Here's another ufiti, trike, which is a minion from the Cupo of Fortune scratch tickets, more dye, the antelope doe, which I was selling, which unfortunately started decreasing, so I stopped selling it. The petit pteranodon, which is again for the scratch tickets, more dye, another ufiti, another gazelle, which definitely was undercutted a lot. One carbuncle item that I sold, which I don't recommend. More dyes, and if I could go back even further, another doe mount, ufiti mount, and ruby red dye, but of course I can't go further than that. But I've been starting from the beginning of February all the way up to the 24th. So that was almost 8. I could have made 8 to 10 million if I kept with it, but I was working in other guides on top of that. Alright, so now we're going to go over to the market board and I'll show you guys on my server what everything is going for currently. Alright, so we're at the market board, so let's look at these prices. So I favored everything for quicker access. So first thing we'll start off is the gazelle mount. So this goes on my server 877,000, which is impressive. But they were definitely going for a lot lower back at the beginning of February. Next is the ufiti horn. Now this is where I go the opposite of what I always told you. In this case, go by the sales history. Alright, no one's going to buy these for over $1 million. Well, this person did, but majority of people did not. So for ufiti, definitely go by the sales history. Only time I'll tell you to do that, probably. The staghorn, I'm only going to show you this because I want to show you how bad these are. Alright, so if you get one of these through the presents from the fates, go ahead and sell it or use it for yourself. The dome mount, again, these used to be more expensive before the Mughal event, but these definitely went down in price. So I guess avoid it if you want. Trike, little minion from the Cupo Fortune. Small gill, do you get one? The petit pteranodon goes almost for 100,000 gil, which is impressive. Which I sold mine for 100,000. The controlled chaos hairstyle that I sold once. Probably should look into this a little bit more. The peace lover's attire. So if you go to the sub menu and go view manifest, you can see everything. So the pantaloons are the only thing that has sold for the most of all this on my server. But the attire itself, or the coffer, pretty cheap. So that's why I open it up and sell it. The casual attire. This goes for 500,000 if you're lucky enough to get one. The hill race villager attire cannot be sold, so the coffer can. This one I probably would avoid because we have bots that basically put the whole stock up on different retainers. And this one was undercutted to high heaven because no one would stop undercutting me. So if you get it, probably don't sell it. And the cupo coffer here, I probably would say that the trousers is probably the most expensive ones here. But the coffer itself is 123,000. But that is basically almost everything except for the dyes, which I almost forgot. So the pearl white dye is the cheapest. Gunmetal black. And these two are alternative to jet black and pure white dye. So the gunmetal black goes for almost 50,000. So they definitely were cheaper. And the ruby red, which is a more cost efficient, which you also can get through on Sanctuary if you like. But these are the lowest ones for cheaper costs. Now, the other thing is the partition that you get from the Cupo Fortune, or from St. Moshian's Arboretum hard mode. These can go for over 300,000 gil. And don't do what this person does and put all your stock up. That is just stupid. That's impatience right there. But as you can see, they sell quite nicely and they are quite expensive. So if you're lucky enough to get this one, sell it. The spring one is cheap, so don't bother selling that though. So that is everything that I have sold in the month of February from the Ishgard restoration. So I made this a little bit easier on myself by selling other things to fund my crafting journey to get the stuff for the Ishgard restoration. But I honestly would recommend just gathering everything yourself. But if you're going to be paying your way to getting these expensive mounts, try to find other ways of making gil that doesn't require the market board, such as my boardless series. So I'll make sure to link that series in the description down below or the end card of this video so you guys can take advantage of that. But this is definitely going to be something that you should be doing up until the next restoration project that they might be doing sometime in Dawn Trail, which is the Cosmic Exploration. So I'm looking forward to that, but try to take advantage of this as much as possible. Okay, so good luck, and good luck undercutting. And that's going to be it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching. If you want to support the channel, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe if you're new for more Final Fantasy XIV content and help with the YouTube algorithm. If you want to support the channel even further, consider becoming a YouTube member or a Patreon supporter. The link for that would be in the description down below, as well as the link to my Discord channel. I also want to give a huge shout out to all my Patreon and YouTube members. So until next time, if you're ever walking the glorious light of Lord Bahamut, and always remember to keep forging ahead. Take care.